Hey there, welcome back to Online Marketing Foundations. We're still in Module 1, the Badass Online Marketing Approach, and here in Lesson 6, I want to kind of make a pitch to you that you need to work on building a brand, not an infomercial. And this is something I kind of want to press because I think it's an important piece to make. Because look, here's a truth bomb. Most online entrepreneurs sound like the worst infomercial pitchmen out there, using sales gimmickry rather than taking the time to build a brand and goodwill and all of the other things that come with being a trusted resource in the space and in the agency. That's not what you want to do. It's not the path to long-term success. So specifically in this lesson, you'll learn the difference between building an infomercial business and a brand, and why you need to focus on building a brand if you really want a lasting business. So let's go ahead and dive in. First, I want to talk about this and kind of make the pitch to you that most online marketers sound like infomercials. I know this isn't going to make me popular for saying it, but it's just kind of true. A lot of people have pointed out, have made comparisons when I make fun of these things, and they were doing this early on, talking about how, they were seeing remnants of like 1980s and 1990s infomercials in a lot of online marketing. And I want to make the pitch to you to help you see that. So, if you think about it, a lot of the things we are taught to use as sales tactics as online entrepreneurs are really kind of weird if you look at them from an objective standpoint of what you would want, how you would want to be marketed to. And when you think of, a reputable place like an Apple of the world. And let's talk about some of those sales tactics, because they really are things that we have ingrained. Like if you're in this space, if you're new, if you're just kind of coming to this cold, I'm hoping that I can prevent you from ever getting these bad habits. But if you've been in the space for a while, some of this stuff is orthodoxy. And I'm going to kind of take a second and hope to get through to you that it's not actually normal. Like the first one is scarcity and urgency. And what this is, and again, there are a lot of books that talk about this. There's a famous book about persuasion that talks about how this affects things. And you'll hear people say, well, we have to do this to make people buy. And so it's like limited time only. You can only buy during this very limited period, or we're going to raise the price significantly if you don't buy now, et cetera. There's all of that built in to the sales tactics. Now, I'm going to ask you a simple question to ask yourself. Is that something that reputable businesses and brands in the offline world are doing? And I think if you're honest with yourself, you know that it's not. You could think of all kinds of different brands, and there are some businesses that do this. And I can think of one business that, back when I was a lawyer and had to buy, suits and things like that on a regular basis, where literally they were constantly doing these things. So I would never buy anything from them unless I think a suit had to be at least like buy one, get two free. And the shirts I wouldn't buy unless it was buy one, get three free, because they always use these tactics. And it didn't really make me respect the brand. So those are some of the things, but we in the online space do it in an even more aggressive way, or we're taught to, by literally telling people you can only buy during this 1 week period that I'm calling a launch. And I'm simply going to ask you, is that something that seems normal to you? If you really think about it, it's gimmickry. It is not something that traditional businesses use. But it's not just that. There's also the fake values that we put. Now, if you've ever gone to, a webinar, if you've been on a sales page, if you've done any of those things, what will tend to happen is people will put all of the things that are included in their offer in the thing that you're buying from them. And in parentheses right next to it, it'll say whatever value. So it'll say a 7-module online course, $3,557 value. Now, it doesn't normally have those wacky numbers, but it will just have a made-up number there. And they do it with every single one of those things. Now, there's an orthodoxy that says, some people believe that value should add up to 10 times. The total value of everything they're offering should be 10 times the price. Well, I'm here to tell you that's BS. Those values are pulled out of thin freaking air. And that's the kind of thing, again, if you think about it, like I don't walk into, the retailers or the offline worlds that I enjoy and have them just give me, well, this has a value of X made up. Now, some of the like lower rent places that say, oh, compare at. But they're actually saying, look, compare this to a similar product at the same thing. These values, that's not what they're doing. Again, it's not normal, but we've normalized it in this space. But another sales tactic, literally that people won't always say this. I joke about it, but it's like you say, but wait, there's more. It's this concept of stacking bonuses, of stacking things. And so the way a sales pitch will normally happen in the online space is it'll go something like this. They'll present to you the core product, whatever that is. Maybe it's a course with a Facebook group or something like that. They'll do that, and then they'll give you the price. They'll say, and it's, first of all, they stacked the value and said it was probably worth $10,000, but they're only going to charge you $997. But then what they do is say, but wait, there's more. We have bonus number 1 worth $1,000. And we have bonus number 2 worth this much. And we have bonus number 3 worth that much. And we have bonus number 4. And it gets added and added and added. So that is the standard orthodoxy of how you sell in the online space. Now, what I'm going to say is you have to use these kinds of tactics when you're using the selling concept of marketing. Remember, we talked about the different concepts of marketing. If you're in that world of where you have to create demand, and that's your view of what your job is, you're going to do these things because these things can sometimes generate some short-term demand. The problem is that you're having to do it because your product doesn't meet existing demand. It's not saying, hey, here's what my people want. Let me go and create that product. That's not what people are doing. And so they're having to use these gimmicks. And so again, when you're not meeting demand, you have to use these selling gimmicks. That's just what you have to do. And this is where I say it's kind of like an infomercial. Now, maybe I'm weird because I like to watch a lot of TV. And I'm especially weird because I will actually watch those full 30-minute long, an hour-long infomercials, not because I'm ever going to buy the product, but because I'm interested. I'm interested. I'm one of those guys who reads a sales page, beginning to end. I'm the person who does those things because I'm interested. And I'll do it with infomercials. And it's kind of funny. One thing that I pick up is most infomercials are selling gadgets that you do not need or even really want. I mean, they're trying to sell something that there really is no demand for. And one that comes to mind, it's like literally a piece of plastic that is meant for you to use to scoop ingredients when you're cooking and put them into your pan. And it's kind of hilarious because you watch this infomercial and, anytime you watch this, they make the problem seem huge. When you're cutting ingredients, they go everywhere. And when you're trying to put things over into the pan, it spills all over the floor and all that. And so you need this piece of plastic to scoop your ingredients. Meanwhile, most people like me are sitting there saying, well, why don't I just carry my cutting board over to the pan and scrape it off, right? And so again, it is trying to pitch me a product where there is literally no need for it. That's what infomercials do, and that's why they use these techniques. And again, I want you to ask yourself, think about infomercials. It's always like, well, we're going to throw in an extra one. All you have to do is pay for shipping and handling. But wait, I'm going to add in all of these bonus tools to go with it. And wait, it's the exact same thing that we're doing online because it's the exact same tactic. See, the hard truth is that if your business doesn't provide a solution to a genuine need or fulfill a desire, you're going to struggle, even if you're passionate about your product. I mean, and I'll say this, I have a cousin who is a mechanical engineer, and he and his company, they will create all of these kind of products. But again, I kind of look at them and I'm like, yeah, these are infomercial kind of products because there's no real need. And I'll tell you, they struggle to sell those things because there's no need for them. And that's what we need to be thinking about. See, just like infomercials, most online entrepreneurs are really trying to create demands for products that people don't actually want. And that's not how you want to build a business that will last. It just isn't the path to success. So that's kind of, hopefully I've made my case and you're seeing the parallels. You're like, whoa, yeah, there's something to this. Because now we're going to move on to why you want to actually build yourself a brand instead of being kind of an infomercial pitch person. Because businesses that thrive over the long term focus on building goodwill with customers. Now, if you're not familiar with the term goodwill, it's the concept of kind of reputation and built up, people in the world, people in the market knowing of you and having a good opinion of your business. It is something that is calculated in a real business. When you're actually doing a valuation, people will look and say, well, what is the goodwill of this company worth? It's often another way of saying kind of what is the brand value aside from all of the different assets in the business? What is kind of the reputation of this brand? And that's what most businesses in the outside world or kind of the offline world do. And that's what we should be doing too. Now, the good thing is that you can do this by embracing the holistic marketing approach, which is kind of what we talked about, when we're going through the history of marketing. And this is how you're going to build a brand, because you use this approach and it builds up that goodwill and your brand awareness. So what separates a brand from the infomercial approach most online entrepreneurs are using? That's probably what you're thinking. You're saying, yeah, I'd rather be a reputable brand rather than kind of a huckster on TV. So how do I do it? Well, let's talk about it. First is the product. Brands create products to meet existing market demand rather than trying to find a market for an existing product. That's kind of a weird little turn of phrase, but basically what it means is instead of creating a product and then going to try to find people to buy that product, brands find the market, understand what they want, and then create demand or create products to specifically address those wants and needs. And that needs to be our approach in creating products. See, brands attract the right people. This is kind of the other thing. They attract the right people, listen to their pain points, and then create products that genuinely serve them. That's something different than creating a product and then trying to sell it. So again, I'll give you an example here, is that my email marketing course, Badass Email Marketing, was created in direct response to people asking me to teach them how I used email in my business. See, what had happened is I had a membership site and I was teaching a little bit about email. I would teach here's how I do my weekly emails, or I would teach things like that. And I had multiple people come to me and say, hey, that's great, but help me understand how you do it from start to finish. From the minute someone first gets on your email list until kind of the end, what are you doing? What's the process? How does it all fit together? People were asking me for it. So I said, okay, people want want a product on this, and I created it in direct response to that. That's an example of kind of organically creating a product based upon existing demand. And that's what you want to be doing in your business. But beyond kind of thinking about how you come up with a product, the other important thing is that a brand is focused on serving its audience over the long term rather than being focused on selling over the short term. There's this important distinction that is made that someone who is a marketer is customer-centric, focused on serving their customer, whereas a person who is interested in selling, like a seller, not a marketer, is focused on their personal needs to convert their products into money. And you can just kind of see how being focused on serving my audience is going to be much more beneficial over the long term than focusing on my personal needs of wanting to sell more. And that's kind of a thing I want you to understand and think through, because brands focus on serving, not selling. Brands recognize that by serving their audience over the long term, they will succeed, and that is more valuable than trying to get people to buy right now, no matter what, even if it's not right for them. So again, an example of this is you should aggressively be talking people out of buying your products if they aren't ready for them yet. I do this all the time. I will have people come to me who are thinking about investing in something, and I ask them questions and say, you're not ready yet. Go do this other thing first, and then come and talk about it. I've done this for my own products. I've done this when I have promoted other people's products. I do more talking people out of buying than I do talking people into buying. And my experience has been that those people will come back to me later. They will thank me and they will buy when they're ready. And not only that, they will send other people my way because they know that I'm interested in serving, not selling. So again, I give this to you to help you understand the value in doing this. So, being a brand is about how you create your product. It's about having a long-term focus, and it's about the idea of recognizing that you want to build goodwill. See, brands recognize that really one of the most valuable assets they have is their goodwill, so they invest in it. They take the time to consistently be thinking about how do we build our reputation? How do we kind of build our reputation with our customers, with our potential customers, with our partners, with everybody? Now, showing up to connect with people may not have a measurable return on investment immediately, but it's essential to building your brand. Literally, I will tell you that there's this focus in the online world of everything has to be measurable. If I can't measure an immediate return on investment, it's not a good investment. I'm here to tell you that is not how real businesses build their business. Real businesses make investments every single day on things that are not measurable, on investing in goodwill and reputation and brand awareness. We in the online space need to be doing the same thing. And again, I can talk from my own personal experience. A large part of my sales come from people who've heard of me from a friend or in a community they're a part of. In other words, I don't have to sell them. I don't have to pay to get them on my list. I don't do anything that is like literally kind of, I can track where this person came from. They come to my website and they buy a $1,000 product as if by magic, but it's not magic. It's that I've taken the time to build my goodwill with other people, with people who can recommend people, etc. And so what happens is I'm now reaping the rewards for work I did a year ago, 2 years ago, etc. That's not measurable, but it means that my business is in this positive snowball, and that's what you need to create as well. So the next thing we need to talk about is recognition. Brands focus on creating recognition of the brand, not just individual products, so people will purchase multiple times. Like, think about this. And again, I think this is a good thing for you to think about in the distinction between infomercial and brand, right? An infomercial, you tend to not know who the heck the brand is behind it. Because if people buy it, they're going to buy that single product. They're never going to buy like, oh, well, I want to go back to, blah, 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 LLC, whatever it is that is the company behind that product. They're buying a product and that's it. Whereas a brand, if you think about it, people come back over and over and over again. My example I always use to people, and not everybody loves this, is Apple. I'm an Apple company. As soon as I bought my first Apple product, I was kind of hooked. Now I've got, I've had iPhones for, more than a decade now, I think. I've had multiple iPads. I've got multiple Macs, and it just becomes this thing where because of that, I think of Apple as a brand, not the individual products. And the thing behind like building your brand isn't about logos, fonts, or colors. Look, those things are cool. We obviously put a lot of time into our branding. Hopefully you're seeing that in these slide decks and everything else we're doing. We put a lot of thought into those things. But that's not what creates brand recognition. Now, it can for the casual person. But brand recognition really comes from having a core purpose, a core message, a core voice, and a core mission. Something that people can recognize in you as your overall business, kind of apart from individual products. Really, it's about building a business that customers will want to get behind. In other words, you want to be building an overall business that people will say, hey, I want to send my friends to you. I want to do that, because when you have that, that's when they will come back and you will have this kind of path to success through brand building. So that's the ultimate thing of what you're trying to do. And a little thing I want to kind of, before we do our last closeout here, what I want to close out here with as an idea is that in this world, kind of in the online world, you are your brand. A lot of people want to kind of hide behind a brand name, etc. We are our brand, and we need to recognize that. We need to embrace that. People will do business with us when they recognize us, when they relate to us. And we're going to get into that more during the connection phase, but also in the commit phase. Kind of the commit and connect phases is going to help you understand how these pieces of you being your brand really help you to understand it and go and have a meaningful effect here. So now the kind of key takeaway that I want you to get is that building a brand isn't an overnight process. It's about the long game. but it's well worth the effort. My business is built on this concept of building a brand. That's why I make sales every single day that have nothing to do with anything I did, today, yesterday, last week, or even last month. I am making those sales because I've taken the time to build my brand, and it pays dividends, and it's what real businesses do. So if you want a thriving business, start building your brand. Now, in the next lesson, you'll learn about the Badass Online Marketing Framework and how you can use that to build your brand. And hopefully you kind of have a sense of this because you're in this course, in this program. But the concept behind this is, I mentioned commit and connect. It's part of that framework. And we're going to dive into it quickly in the next lesson so you have an understanding of kind of how everything fits together and what's to come in the rest of this course.